People, Deluded, I'm back again. Now, I'm sure you've all seen, if you're subscribed to The Athletic, the piece on Francis Cagigao. Now, I can never pronounce his name, but he is somewhat an unsung hero. You know, if you do your research, Cesc Fabregas, Hector Bellerin played a part in Martinelli, as well as other scouts that don't get recognised at Arsenal as well, and several other players. And yeah, man, he's involved in recruitment. You know, he's been part of the furniture at Arsenal for a while. He's worked his way up. You know, technically he's born in England, you know, and stuff like that. And he's a London lad. I think he was a Chelsea fan growing up, but he's come through Arsenal's academy. And he ties in with our logic of people at the club right now. Even though he's been at the club for a while, that understand it from both points of view, because they've all been players. You've got Mustafi doing the youth stuff. Edu's previously been here. Obviously now you've got Arteta as the manager. A couple of other people in and around in bits and pieces. And you know, it was interesting for me because I've told you, like, in my own scouting career, I'm starting to look at things differently. And now everyone can see Jadon Sancho. I've said this before. Jadon Sancho, for example, is a baller. But through looking for Jadon Sancho, have you missed someone that could be just as good as him in a year or 2 or 3 years from now? Is there someone that might not be, you know, show blazing and stuff, but they can do a job? Do you get what I'm saying? Is there someone you can see that is playing in potentially the wrong role or stuff like that? Do you get it, people? Everyone can see the stars. People can't see other things. And it was a very interesting read. So I've mashed together the relevant bits, or bits I found relevant, people, really and truly. And it was also a lovely piece. I know the biggest one is Aubameyang didn't come. He recommended Aubameyang, but that's what I mean about development. Everyone can see Aubameyang today as a baller, but you know, he was at Saint Etienne, Monaco, AC Milan. It was a bit iffy sort of thing. Francis could see that. Other people could see that. Do you get what I'm saying? That's the sort of thing we need to be on. And I did also get the theme of it being frustrating, because there's several players he's recommended and the club didn't go and get it done. And as much as Wenger made mistakes, that's happened with Wenger. But for a scout, that's very annoying, because I can imagine, obviously when you're chief scout you can make decisions, but when it comes to the first team, you could scout Mbappe for, let's say, 5 years, follow him extensively, follow that before that breakout season at Monaco, beg the club or whoever's in charge to get it done. And if they say no, ultimately all the scouting, all the getting other people to scout so it's different opinions, all the re-scouting, all the trying to find not just how he plays but how he trains, what's his character like, all of it can be for nothing essentially. It's never all for nothing because it helps your knowledge, but you imagine I work for Arsenal, I do all of that, and they say, no, F it, we're not buying that player. He goes to, let's say, Spurs, and he becomes a madman. Do you get it? You look a bit silly. It's frustrating for you because you tried, didn't it, sort of thing. And yeah, and he to be a scout, you've got to have integrity, and he seems to have that in abundance. But as you lot know, he started off at Arsenal in the recruitment sector. You know, he held part-time roles scouting in Spain and Portugal. Long story short, progressed all the way. But getting into the meat of it, I think this was Dick Law commenting in the article. He said, Franny's most outstanding quality is that his opinion's always on record. In a world of football, that's an invaluable quality. He has integrity. It doesn't always make him right, but in football, dealing with people with true integrity is rare, and that's 100% facts. Also spoke vaguely about he actually was doing this coaching thing at 29 people, and he had a decision to make. Do I keep being a head coach, or do I do the scouting thing? And only he would be able to answer if he made the right decision, people. So yeah, also detailed, I don't got the specific tournaments, but it detailed the tournaments Martinelli and Cesc and these players were looked at. And another point, it said, as well as Fabregas, Arsenal brought in the likes of Fran Merida and John Torrell from Barcelona. The latter two clearly didn't work out here, although Torrell's forming a career in the Championship, I believe. Well, Merida's played in a couple of places, including Brazil. I'm sure Fran Merida scored against Liverpool though, so he did alright. But he said, the article said that we tried for more. We was in talks for 4 months before Manchester United agreed a deal for Gerard Piqué. Obviously Piqué had been in advanced talks. You all know we tried to get Lionel Messi, it didn't bang. And we were fortunate with Cesc. He spotted Bellerin playing as a right winger in Barcelona's under-16 side. He was impressed by his athleticism and intelligence. Athleticism is something with Bellerin that's being questioned currently, ironically. Said he was convinced of his potential as a right back. The pitch to Bellerin's family was simple. Come to Arsenal, develop into an international class fullback, or stay here and settle for life as a second division winger. And that's true. It's like I said with Wan-Bissaka at Palace. If he didn't say, yo, you know what, there's an opportunity for me at right back here, where would he be? I'm not being disrespectful to Wan-Bissaka because he's improving in attacking sense, but would he be at Manchester United playing right wing? It's a myth. Bellerin would not be in the Premier League playing as a winger because I don't think he's got the ability to score goals and assists. But you saw, lightning quick, he's very decent at fullback, or was decent at fullback, some would say. And you could say it's been backed up because he's been on the cusp, whether you believe in him or not, and you hear Luis Enrique likes him, of the Spain national team. So, ironically, he's been proved right. You've developed, you've become a player, you've still got age on your side. Bellerin's linked with clubs in Spain and Italy. You can still move back to Spain if playing La Liga. Growing up in Spain, like a kid growing up in England wants to play in the Prem. Can I imagine you want to do that? Well, obviously, as he's developed, he's got a different interest, and maybe a move to Italy can marry your love for football with your love for other stuff together. But he was backed up for first and foremost, people. Obviously, it's not just Cagigao's pitch, and there was probably other scouts involved, and obviously the coaching staff, Wenger and everyone had to help him, and he was playing in the academy primarily, so it was a collective journey, but it's been backed up, and it's credit to everyone at Arsenal. Most importantly, when Bellerin is sold, there's a decent profit to be made. And obviously, we've all heard of Lauren, the invincible fullback, of talk of, previously him wanting to be a midfielder and going to right back. Long story short, people, I might as well read it. Where is it gone? Sorry, people. Several years earlier, Cagigao had identified Lauren as a potential successor to Lee Dixon while he was playing in midfield for Mallorca. Cagigao, forgive me for mispronunciation, convinced Arsene Wenger and Rice that Lauren would be a right back. But the Athletic understands that after his first few training sessions, as we've heard, the coaches were far from convinced. Lauren started his career, as you know, our people in midfield, but in typical fashion, Cagigao stood firm. If he played at right back, he would flourish. A few months later, Lauren made the transition, and Cagigao received a grateful call from Wenger saying, "You were right, he's a right back." So again, obviously Wenger needed the courage to play a 16-year-old Cesc Fabregas and obviously persist with Lauren. But we identified two areas. Do you get it? And that's the sort of standard I want to get back to, people. Do you get it? Because we should be able to do that. We should be able to source someone to be a right back. We should be able to or sign a Sagna or sign someone that can become long-term a right back for nominal fees. Obviously, today's day and age, money is the buzzword. Even if you try to do the scouting thing, people hear Arsenal, Premier League team, billion-dollar business, essentially, you're going to have to throw some zeros on that. But it can still be done. It went on to say, when Cagigao makes his mind up on a player, he sticks to it. Santi Cazorla did not arrive at Arsenal until he was 27. By that point, Cagigao had been tracking him for more than a decade. He filed reports on Sorry, people. Someone called me and I've lost where I'm going. Yeah, by that point, Cagigao had been tracking him for more than a decade. He filed reports on Cazorla's technical ability when he was just 16, offering the caveat that he needed to develop a little physically before moving to England. If he's small now at 5'6", he was even smaller then. Obviously, long story short, he's coming. That's one thing I like. Sterling's the same age as me. I've watched Sterling from 15 years of age, and that's one thing. Someone like Lacazette as well, and even the Kevins and these players there that they're a bit older than myself, but you've seen them as teenagers progress now. That's the sort of thing I like as well. And what's interesting, and again, I mentioned this earlier about frustration or a source of frustration or frustrated. Sorry, people. Like I said, that can be a source of frustrating because look at the following statement. These names are names we always saw linked with Arsenal. When Arsenal lost Fabregas and Samir Nasri in the summer of 2011, Cagigao and the scouting department recommended buying Cazorla and Juan Mata to replace them. The idea for Arsenal was to acquire like-for-like replacements and still turn a profit. Unfortunately, the club were not able to complete the deals. Mata went to Chelsea and Santi joined Malaga. On Cagigao's recommendation, Arsenal had previously made offers for both Monreal and Cesar Azpilicueta when the pair were both with Osasuna in the second division. And again, especially Azpilicueta, because you look at him at Chelsea, he's been a serviceman for ages. He can play at right back, play at left back. I'm sure he's even played at centre half in a back three. I could be wrong on that. But when I think of Dave, he is someone that could have been at this club for a while. And again, Dave got all the praise when he moved from Marseille to Chelsea, but these things could have been done. Do you get it, people? Obviously, players are not always... When you see the names, they're not always of the standard they are now or anything close because it's a funny game, people. I remember seeing a Chelsea scout saying, Firmino, when he was playing in Brazil, I wouldn't have looked twice at him. Now look, do you get it? So these things are weird, people. Spoke on Aubameyang, Arsenal's interest in Aubameyang. Obviously, it's ironic that we signed him now, but apparently we was looking at him when he was 21 years of age. He was then on the books of Milan, and he had an underwhelming spell with Monaco, but his speed and intelligence is really what tipped the balance. When he began to blossom at Saint Etienne, ironically where we got Saliba, there was a clear recommendation from the scouting department to sign the player. Arsenal felt they were sufficiently well stocked for strikers at the time and passed. And I mean, you look at, we had Bentner, Shimak and the man there, so it looks stupid now, but boy, it must have been even more stupid, I'm sorry. But moving forward with that, yeah, man. And went on to say that obviously he's known for his integrity, he's known for his willingness to pin his colours to the mast for a player, his colours, sorry. When his advice is overlooked, there's inevitably frustrating. Part of Cagigao's skill is his capacity to accept that. It's what enables him to enjoy. And again, it could kill you as a scout, people. It must get antagonising seeing several players that have gone on to do good things and you're suggesting them and it's not getting taken up. And that seems a lot, because I speak to a part-time scout at a certain Premier League club and he sees a lot of grassroots players. In fact, there's a player that's being looked at by a lot of clubs and he's 15 years of age and he's in the England side. This team doesn't have the biggest resources. It's not a top 6 side. But he's been recommending a couple of these players and they've not taken them on. Now, if they took them on and the club was smart, rightly or wrongly, they could have made a profit on these players before they've even played a first team game, because you could have taken them off grassroots or cat-free clubs. Then the big boys are coming looking. You can agree a decent comp package and things, but it is what it is. So yeah, apparently it went on to say there was tension around the stat DNA thing, and he said one such case was Skodran Mustafi. When Arsenal were on the hunt for a new centre-half in the summer of 2016, the German did not figure on the scouting department list of recommendations. The statistics made a compelling case for the player and the scouting reports were overruled. In the same summer, Arsenal signed Lucas Perez from Deportivo. The club intended to buy Jamie Vardy, triggering his release clause before the striker decided to remain with Leicester. Perez was on the brink of a move to Everton when an agent working on the deal asked Cagigao whether he considered him an option for Arsenal, to which he replied, "Not a chance, he's a mid-table player." With Arsenal against the clock and under pressure to bring in a striker, they decided to sign Perez anyways. Again, statistics were a factor. That's the nature of any transfer window. And again, this shows you scouting with the eyes and statistics is vital, because again, Mustafi was looking like a certified centre-half in Valencia, let's be honest. But again, someone who's skilled to watch players to this level is telling you F it, the club is overruling and just looking purely at statistics allegedly, then is it a wonder why, no disrespect to Mustafi or Lucas Perez, if we're honest, that's around 60 odd million down the drain, because what was Mustafi, like 30, 35? Perez was what, it must have been a 20. So my maths is poor, but let's say 50, 60, anything from 40 to 60, I don't know specifics, down the drain, especially for a club that claims they have to be more prudent. So this is why scouting should be at the forefront. Obviously there's more factors to signing a player than just purely he's a decent player, we can get him for a decent fee. You're dealing with agents, you're dealing with players, some man might not even wanted to make the move at the time to get it, but it's pretty telling, people. Obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it's pretty telling. And then he spoke of when Carlos Vela was on loan at Spain. He more or less said, and he was sent there to monitor him, he said 100% of talent, 0%, sorry, let me start again. 100% of talent, 0% of attitude. So yeah, clearly he knows when a player's not at it, and clearly this tells you like Vela's career didn't work here for numerous factors, but primarily maybe didn't push himself in his early days in Europe, people. Obviously he's now a lead scout, and you know, he spoke of, you know, he's in Brazil. He's obviously got a scout called Everton Goshenskin. I can't say that name, but he's an FM legend. I got him in my FM team. More or less spoke about, you know, how it was Everton who brought the attention of Martinelli to Cagigao. He obviously went and watched him at a tournament as a 15-year-old playing an under-20 tournament. He asked Raul Sanllehi to negotiate a first option sort of thing, so we could deal with negotiations before everyone else. And obviously there was a bit of a, not a rush, but a rush, considering this is a player who on the face of it was unknown, but had already at this point trialled at Barcelona and Manchester United, sort of thing, and had previously been with Corinthians, people. That's crazy, people. And one thing I know for a fact as well, when you look at, there's a certain player who left Arsenal, people, and I know it through speaking to certain people. a couple of our English players at academy levels have tried to be poached, especially ones in wide positions, and it's weird because a lot of you typically hear 30-40 Arsenal scouts are at our games, and on one occasion this was particularly true. And when trying to tap up these players, they were saying, you know that Arsenal are signed in Martinelli, right? They're signing the winger in your position. Obviously at the time I didn't know, and many people didn't know Martinelli was going to be what he's going to be because I wasn't watching him. But it's funny how these things work out. Cagigao convinced Sanye to negotiate an exclusivity option granting Arsenal a 4-week window after the player's 18th birthday, to which only they would be able to negotiate a permanent transfer. Meanwhile, Arsenal scouts Gus Hinskin and Jonathan Vidale ensured there was an Arsenal presence at every Eternal game. In-depth statistical analysis does not exist for a club as small as Eternal. This was a triumph for pure scouting. The final stage was a face-to-face meeting between the player and his father. Cagigao saw what Vela had lacked: humility, determination, ambition. His mind was made up, however, about Martinelli, and that's a great. It's true, people. That's a small win for the eyes, people. And there's many more Martinellis out there. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a bit, car. Martinelli's a bad boy, but there's many more out there. There's players out there. You just need to know where to look, and especially as me trying to do the scouting thing in England. I look at it, there's no point in me going after the biggest grassroots clubs, people, because the Arsenals, the Chelseas, many of these London teams are after it. But what if I go for the smaller ones, the teams that aren't necessarily excelling at youth level winning titles? The ones, there might be a baller there who's just in a crap team, do you get? Or if I became a professional scout, what is the point in me going after these big boys? Can I look at somewhere like, let's say, who produces quite good players? Let's say Exeter, yeah? Or Luton. Many of their players, look at Max Aaron at Norwich, they get picked off into these Premier League teams. So what can you do at that point to get there before that happens? Where are they looking at these players? Do you get it, people? It's smarter things like that. And I think this, for me anyways, this was a very great read. And I'd employ, I'm not going to lie, I think The Athletic is a bit overpriced, but through you lot, and you lot watching my ads and stuff, we've put some, I tell you, we reinvest. We put some P's together for the year to do this thing. And I say every now and again, there's a gem of an article. And I think this was a good one. And yeah, man, and it is a bit of a weird one because I don't know, it's something that I don't really comprehend and it's yet to happen, but just based on Football Manager, if the Brexit rules come into place where we can't, it's really hard to sign players at 16 years of age and we need to target players that are 18, 20 now, sort of that Martinelli age range, it does make me wonder how we're going to change our scouting sort of thing, people. And that's the next challenge for Cagigao and all of these lot. Because obviously, when you look at South America, we're going against it anyways, car. There's a lot of red tape. There's work permits. You can't move players on at 18. You can't do several things, people. There's way around it, but there's certain things you can't do. So it's an interesting one, people, of what we can do around that, people. But yeah, man, shout out to Francis, because these are the unsung heroes. Everyone sees the cess, everyone sees all these players. Many people don't see the 100 hours that these men spend watching players. And, I look at that and the key things I take away is hindsight's a great thing. I thought Mustafi was going to be a success, so I'm not going to scream here and say this, that and the other. But his knowledge was above everyone. So you look at Mustafi, you look at Perez, I see Cesar. For me, it's the Cesar Azpilicueta signing, It's that one, because I think that could have been a very big signing for us. And I'm sure there's a bag of other names, people, really and truly, that could be listed. But for now, I've offered my opinions. Go on The Athletic and see for yourself if you're subscribed to that. If not, it is what it is. But I've offered my opinion on the relevant bits. If you've watched it, read it, I'd love to hear yours. But for now, people, DG.